They say the truth will set you free. What they don't tell you is the price of that freedom. My name is Marcus, and I'm about to tell you how I discovered my hero father was a monster, how I lost my entire family in a single conversation, and how the hardest thing I ever did was choosing strangers over the people I loved. This is the story of the day I found a metal box in my mother's garage and watched my entire childhood dissolve into lies. Every memory I treasured, every lesson my father taught me, every reason I had to be proud of the man I came from, gone in the time it took to press play on a video file. Welcome to my Reddit diaries, where every story reveals the unseen battles within families. Don't forget to subscribe and tell me in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? I grew up believing my father was one of the good guys. Officer Daniel Carter, badge number 2847, 23 years on the force, decorated twice for bravery, respected by everyone who knew him. When I was 8 years old, he pulled a family out of a burning car on the interstate. When I was 12, he talked down an armed man outside a grocery store without firing a single shot. The local paper called him a guardian angel in uniform. My mother kept every article in a scrapbook she still takes out on his birthday. He died 2 years ago. Heart attack at 51, sudden and cruel, the way death comes for men who burn too bright and too fast. The funeral stretched for 3 hours because half the city showed up to pay respects. His precinct renamed their Officer of the Year award after him. My mother keeps his badge in a glass case in the living room, right next to his folded flag and his dress uniform photo. She dusts it every Sunday morning before church. My sister Emma was 23 when Dad died. She took it the hardest. She dropped out of college for a semester, spent 3 months barely leaving her room, and when she finally emerged, she announced she was applying to the police academy. She wears Dad's old academy ring on a chain around her neck, the one he got the day he graduated. She touches it whenever she talks about him, like it's some kind of talisman connecting her to who he was. I'm Marcus, 28 now, 26 when he died. I'm the older sibling, the one who was supposed to follow in his footsteps. Dad always wanted that. But I went to college for social work instead, and I could see the disappointment in his eyes every time I came home and told him about my classes. He never said it directly, but I knew. He wanted me in uniform. He wanted me to carry on the legacy. The strange thing is, I always felt like something was off. Little moments that didn't make sense. The way Dad would get quiet when certain news stories came on television. The time I was 14 and saw him talking to a man outside a convenience store, and the man's face was pale, terrified, even though Dad was smiling. The late-night phone calls he took in his car in the driveway. The time Mom asked him about some extra money in their account and he snapped at her, told her to mind her business, then apologized an hour later and took us all out for ice cream. I told myself I was imagining things, that I was just being paranoid, that my father was a good man who worked a hard job and sometimes stress made people act strange. I buried those moments deep and tried to forget them. Then last month, Mom asked me to help clean out the garage. She wanted to donate some of Dad's old things, make space, move forward. She's been seeing a grief counselor who told her that holding on to everything wasn't healthy. So on a Saturday morning, I drove over to the house I grew up in, the house that still smells like Dad's cologne in the hallway, and I started pulling boxes down from the shelves. That's when I found it. A metal lockbox hidden behind the insulation in the rafters, wrapped in plastic, pushed so far back you'd never see it unless you were really looking. It was heavy. I almost dropped it climbing down the ladder. Mom was inside making sandwiches, so I sat on the concrete floor of the garage and stared at this box, my heart doing something strange in my chest. The lock was a simple combination lock. I tried Dad's badge number. It opened on the first attempt. Inside was $40,000 in cash. Rubber-banded stacks of hundreds, organized and neat. A burner phone, the cheap kind you buy at gas stations. A USB drive labeled insurance in Dad's handwriting. A small notebook filled with dates, names, and dollar amounts going back 15 years. And photographs. Dozens of them. Dad with men I recognized from old news articles about organized crime. Dad shaking hands with a man who was later convicted of drug trafficking. Dad sitting in a car with someone the local news had called a known associate of the Martinez cartel. My hands were shaking. I picked up the burner phone and turned it on. It still had battery. There were encrypted messages, but some were readable. Codes. Meeting times. Phrases like package delivered and everything's clean. I didn't understand all of it, but I understood enough. I picked up the USB drive and looked at it for a long time. Part of me wanted to throw it back in the box, lock it, put it back in the rafters, and pretend I never saw any of this. Part of me wanted to walk inside and ask Mom if she knew. But I didn't do either of those things. I stood up, put the USB drive in my pocket, closed the box, and told Mom I wasn't feeling well. She asked if I wanted to stay for lunch. I said no. I kissed her on the cheek and left. I went home to my apartment, made a pot of coffee I didn't drink, and plugged the USB drive into my laptop. There were folders, video files, audio recordings, documents. I started with the videos. The first one was security footage from a parking garage. Date stamped 6 years ago. I watched my father approach a man in a suit, accept an envelope, then walk away. 30 seconds of video that destroyed 30 years of memory. The second video was worse. Dashcam footage from a traffic stop. Dad pulled over a sedan, walked up to the window, had a brief conversation, then went back to his patrol car. When he returned to the sedan, he was holding something. He had the driver step out, conducted a search, and pulled a bag of pills from the trunk. The driver was shouting, saying he'd been set up, begging Dad to check the cameras. Dad arrested him anyway. I checked the file name. It had a case number. I looked up the case number online. The man's name was David Chin. He was sentenced to 8 years for possession with intent to distribute. David Chin. I knew that name. He lived 2 streets over from us. His daughter was in Emma's grade school class. His wife used to bring us cookies at Christmas. One day they just disappeared, and when I asked Dad what happened, he said Mr. Chin got mixed up with bad people and had to pay the price. He said it was a lesson about the choices we make. I watched the video 4 more times. I watched my father plant evidence on an innocent man. I watched him destroy a family. And in the video, you could see it in his face. He knew exactly what he was doing. There were 11 more videos. 11 more cases. 11 more lives ruined. Some were bribes. Some were evidence tampering. One was footage of Dad threatening a witness, telling him if he testified he'd make sure the man's brother went away for a long time. The audio files were worse. Dad's voice, calm and steady, negotiating prices for looking the other way. Dad's voice joking with another officer about a case they'd buried. Dad's voice telling someone that as long as the money kept coming, nobody had to know anything. I sat in my apartment for 5 hours listening to my father's crimes in his own words. The coffee went cold. The sun went down. And when I finally closed the laptop, I realized I was crying and I didn't know when I'd started. That night I didn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out what to do. If I said nothing, I could go back to my life. Mom would never know. Emma would never know. Dad's reputation would stay intact. The Daniel Carter Memorial Award would still be given out every year at the precinct. I could keep my family. But David Chen served 6 years of an 8-year sentence before dying of cancer in prison. His daughter grew up without a father. His wife lost their house. And there were 10 other families just like them. People who were sitting in cells right now for crimes they didn't commit. People who lost everything because my father decided their freedom was worth whatever someone paid him to take it. I got out of bed at 3 in the morning and made a decision. I would tell Mom first. She deserved to know before anyone else. Maybe together we could figure out how to make this right. Quietly. Without destroying everything. We could hire a lawyer, approach the help the people Dad hurt. Mom was strong. She would want to do the right thing. She taught me about integrity, about standing up for what's right even when it's hard. She would understand. The next morning I called her and asked if I could come over. She said of course, she was just having coffee. Did I want breakfast? I said no, I just needed to talk. She must have heard something in my voice because she asked if I was okay. I told her I would be. I drove to the house with the USB drive and the notebook in my bag. I parked in the driveway and sat there for 10 minutes, trying to find the courage to walk inside. Finally, I got out of the car and went to the door. Mom opened it before I could knock. She was smiling, happy to see me, and I almost lost my nerve. We sat in the living room. The glass case with Dad's badge was right there on the mantel. Mom poured me coffee I didn't want and asked what was wrong. I took a breath and I told her I found something in the garage. I told her about the box. I watched her face change as I talked. She set her coffee cup down very carefully. Show me. I took out the notebook first. She flipped through it, her lips pressed into a thin line. Then I handed her my laptop with the first video queued up. She watched it. Then the second. Then the third. I didn't make her watch all of them. After 3, she closed the laptop and sat very still. Mom, I know this is horrible. I know this changes everything. But there are people in prison right now who don't deserve to be there. We have to make this right. We have to help them. She looked at me for a long time. Then she stood up, walked to the mantel, and picked up the glass case with Dad's badge. She held it in both hands, staring at it like it held some answer I couldn't see. When she finally spoke, her voice was different. Cold in a way I'd never heard before. Where did you find this box, Marcus? I told her. She nodded slowly. And you've shown this to anyone else? No. Just you. I wanted to tell you first. I thought maybe we could figure out together how to handle this. Get a lawyer, talk to the D quietly. She set the case down and turned to face me. Her eyes were hard. You're going to put that box back exactly where you found it. You're going to give me that USB drive and that notebook. And you're never going to speak about any of this again. I stared at her. Mom, did you hear what I said? Dad planted evidence. He took bribes. He destroyed innocent people. Your father provided for this family. He made sure you had everything you needed. He put you through college. He made sure Emma never wanted for anything. He kept us safe and comfortable and respected in this community. He ruined lives. David Shin died in prison for a crime Dad set him up for. She took a step toward me. David Shin was nobody. A nobody who happened to be convenient. Your father did what he had to do to take care of his family. That's what men do. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You knew. You knew about this. I knew your father made difficult choices. I knew he did what was necessary. And I made peace with that a long time ago because I'm a realist, Marcus. The world isn't fair. The world isn't clean. And sometimes good men have to make compromises. These aren't compromises. These are crimes. Serious crimes. People are in prison. Innocent people. Her face twisted into something ugly. Get out. What? I said get out. Get out of my house. If you ever speak a word of this to anyone, if you ever breathe a word of your father's name in connection with any of this, you are not my son. Do you understand me? You are not my son. I stood up slowly. Mom, please. Just think about this. Think about those families. I don't care about those families. I care about my family. I care about Emma's future. I care about your father's legacy. And if you're selfish enough and cruel enough to destroy all of that for strangers, then you're not the man I raised. Get out. I left. I walked out of that house in a daze, got in my car, and drove home on autopilot. When I got to my apartment, I sat on my couch and stared at nothing. My phone rang 20 minutes later. What did you do to Mom? I tried to explain. She didn't let me finish. How dare you? How dare you make up lies about Dad? How dare you upset her like this? She's in her bedroom crying because of you. Emma, it's not lies. I have proof. I have videos. I don't want to hear it. Dad was a hero. Dad was the best man I've ever known. And you're trying to destroy his memory because what? You're jealous? You're bitter that you never measured up. Emma, please just listen. No, Mom's right. You're not my brother anymore. Don't call me again. She hung up. I tried calling back. She'd already blocked my number. I sat in my apartment as the sun went down for the second night in a row. The USB drive sat on my coffee table. I picked it up and held it in my hand. I could destroy it. I could mail the notebook and the box back to Mom, apologize, beg for forgiveness, and maybe in a few months she'd talk to me again. Maybe Emma would come around. Maybe I could have my family back. Or I could do what I knew was right. I opened my laptop and searched for David Chen's family. His widow still lived in the area. I found the name of the lawyer who had represented him. I sent an email before I could change my mind. Subject line, new evidence in the David Chen case. I attached 3 video files. The next morning, the lawyer called me. He asked me to come to his office. He asked me if I understood what I was doing. I told him I did. He said this would destroy my father's reputation. I told him my father's reputation wasn't built on truth. He said there would be consequences. I told him I knew. He said we'd be meeting with the district attorney by the end of the week. I hung up and stared at my phone. No messages from Mom. No messages from Emma. I was completely alone. And for the first time in my life, I understood what it meant to lose everything by doing the right thing. The lawyer's office smelled like old books and expensive cologne. Michael Rodriguez had been practicing criminal defense for 20 years, and when he looked at me across his mahogany desk, I could see him calculating the cost of what I was about to do. Not to me. He already knew what it would cost me. He was calculating what it would cost the system, the precinct, the city that had turned my father into a legend. Mr. Carter, I need to make sure you understand what you're setting in motion here. These videos, this evidence, it's going to open up investigations that have been closed for years. It's going to put your father's name in the news in ways that will destroy everything your family believes about him. There will be no coming back from this. I told him I understood. He asked me if I was sure. I told him I'd never been more sure of anything in my life. That was 3 days after my mother disowned me. 3 days of silence from every person I'd ever called family. 3 days of checking my phone and finding nothing but the absence of the people I loved. Rodriguez leaned back in his chair. The DA is going to want to meet with you. They're going to want to verify everything. They're going to ask you questions about your father that you won't want to answer. And when this goes public, and it will go public, you need to be prepared for what comes next. I asked him what would come next. He told me the truth. Your father's old partners are going to protect themselves. They're going to say you're lying, that you doctored evidence, that you have some kind of grudge. The police union is going to fight this. The media is going to pick apart your life looking for reasons why you'd fabricate something like this. And your family, Mr. Carter, your family is going to hate you more than they already do. I sat with that for a moment. Then I asked him the only question that mattered. What about the people my father put in prison? What about David Chen's family? Rodriguez smiled, but it was sad. 3 of the cases your father touched have enough evidence for the DA to reopen them. If everything checks out, we're looking at exonerations. David Chen's conviction will be vacated posthumously. His name will be cleared. The other 2, they'll be released. That's what you're buying with this, Marcus. That's what you're trading your family for. I told him to set up the meeting with the DA. 2 days later, I sat in a conference room with 4 people I'd never met and told them everything I knew about my father. They recorded every word. They took the USB drive, the notebook, every piece of evidence I had. An investigator asked me if my mother knew about any of this. I told her my mother had asked me to bury it. The investigator wrote something down and didn't look at me. A woman named Patricia Owens, asked me why I was doing this. I told her because it was the right thing to do. She looked at me like she was trying to figure out if I was lying. Then she said something I'll never forget. Mr. Carter, in my 15 years doing this job, I've never seen someone volunteer to destroy their own family. Most people find ways to justify things like this. They convince themselves it wasn't that bad, or it was a long time ago, or the people who got hurt probably deserved it somehow. You didn't do that. I just want to make sure you understand that what you're doing is going to follow you for the rest of your life. I told her I'd made my peace with that. The investigation took 4 weeks. 4 weeks of silence from my family. 4 weeks of waiting for the other shoe to drop. I went to work at the community center where I counseled families, and I pretended everything was normal. But at night I'd lie awake wondering if I'd made the right choice. Wondering if Mom would ever speak to me again. Wondering if Emma would ever forgive me. Then one night, there was a knock on my door. It was almost 10 o'clock. I opened it and found 3 men standing in my hallway. I recognized all of them. Officers Pierce, Donaldson, and Murphy. They'd worked with my father for years. They'd been pallbearers at his funeral. Pierce spoke first. "Marcus, can we come in?" I stepped aside. They walked into my apartment and stood in my living room like they owned it. Murphy closed the door behind them. None of them were in uniform, but they carried themselves like cops. Like men who were used to being in control. "We heard you've been talking to some people downtown," Pierce said. "About your father." I didn't say anything. Donaldson walked over to my bookshelf and picked up a framed photo of me and Dad from when I was 10. We were at a baseball game, both of us smiling, his arm around my shoulders. "Your father was a good man, Marcus. He helped a lot of people. He kept this city safe for 23 years. He framed innocent people," I said. "He took bribes. He destroyed families." Murphy laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You think you know how the world works because you have some videos and a notebook? You think you understand what your father did?" "I understand exactly what he did." Pierce stepped closer. "No, you don't. You understand what it looks like from the outside. You don't understand the pressure. You don't understand what it takes to do this job day after day, dealing with the worst people in this city, watching them walk free on technicalities, watching them hurt people and get away with it because some lawyer found a loophole. Your father did what he had to do to make sure justice actually happened. That's not justice. That's corruption. Call it whatever you want, Donaldson said, still holding the photo. But your father made sure bad people went away. Yeah, maybe he cut some corners. Maybe he took some money from people who had plenty to spare. But at the end of the day, he made this city safer. David Chen wasn't a bad person. He was innocent. Pierce's face hardened. David Chen was moving product for the Martinez crew. We knew it, your father knew it, everybody knew it. We just couldn't prove it the way the law wanted us to prove it. So your father made sure Chen went away anyway. That's not corruption, Marcus. That's doing what needs to be done. You're lying. The videos show Dad planting evidence. The videos show your father doing his job. And if you push this, if you keep going down this road, you're going to ruin a lot of lives. Not just your father's reputation. Other officers. Good men with families. Pensions. Kids in college. You're going to destroy all of that because you found some old files and decided to play hero. Murphy moved to stand next to Pierce. Your mother's a good woman, Marcus. Emma's a sweet girl. They're going through enough right now without you making their lives harder. Think about them. Think about what this is going to do to them when it goes public. I have thought about them, I said. I've thought about them every day since I found that box. But I've also thought about the families Dad destroyed. I've thought about David Chen dying in prison for something he didn't do. I've thought about his daughter growing up without a father because mine decided her father's freedom was worth whatever someone paid for it. Pierce's jaw tightened. You're making a mistake. No. My father made the mistake. I'm just making sure people know about it. Donaldson set the photo down carefully. We came here as a courtesy, Marcus. Because your father was our brother. We're giving you a chance to walk this back. Tell the DA you were mistaken. Tell them you misunderstood what you saw. Tell them you want to withdraw your statement. And if I don't? The three of them looked at each other. Then Pierce spoke and his voice was quiet. Then you're on your own. You understand that? Your father had friends. People who owed him favors. People who respected him. All of that goes away if you do this. You'll be alone, Marcus. Completely alone. And once that happens, there's no coming back. I'm already alone, I said. My mother won't speak to me. My sister blocked my number. I've already lost my family. So you're not threatening me with anything I haven't already lived through. They stayed for a few more minutes, making vague statements about how I should reconsider, how I was too young to understand the complexity of the situation, how I'd regret this decision for the rest of my life. Then they left. I locked the door behind them and sat on my couch in the dark, my hands shaking. 2 weeks later, the DA's office called. They were ready to move forward. They had verified the evidence. They were reopening 3 cases. David Chen's conviction would be vacated. 2 other men, Robert Harrison and James Lee, would be released from prison within the month. There would be a press conference. I didn't have to be there, but they thought it would be powerful if I was. I told them I'd think about it. That night, Emma called. Not from her usual number. From a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Marcus. Her voice was different. Smaller. She'd been crying. Emma. I need to talk to you. Can I come over? I told her yes. She said she'd be there in 20 minutes. I spent those 20 minutes pacing my apartment, trying to prepare for whatever was coming. When she knocked, I opened the door and barely recognized her. She looked like she'd lost 10 pounds. Her eyes were red and hollow. She walked past me into the apartment and stood in the middle of my living room, hugging herself. "I watched the videos," she said. I didn't know what to say to that. Mom didn't want me to. She said they were fake, that you doctored them somehow, that you were trying to destroy Dad's memory because you were jealous of him. But I needed to know. I needed to see for myself what you saw. Emma. So I went back to the house when Mom was at work. I found the box. I found the USB drive she'd hidden. And I watched them. All of them. She sat down on my couch and put her face in her hands. I watched Dad plant drugs on David Chin. I watched him take money from that man in the parking garage. I listened to him threaten that witness. I saw all of it, Marcus. Every single thing you saw. I sat down next to her. I'm sorry. Why are you sorry? You didn't do anything wrong. You didn't ruin anyone's life. You didn't frame innocent people. That was Dad. That was our hero father who I wanted to be just like. She looked at me, tears streaming down her face. I dropped out of the academy. I can't do it. I can't put on a uniform knowing what Dad did while wearing his. I can't be part of that. Emma, you're not Dad. You could be a good cop. You could be what he should have been. She shook her head. I can't. Every time I think about it, I see those videos. I see the people he hurt. And I think about how much I loved him. How much I believed in him. He used to tell me that the badge meant something. That it was about honor and service and protecting people who couldn't protect themselves. And the whole time he was saying that he was destroying innocent people for money. We sat in silence for a while. Then she asked the question I'd been dreading. Did Mom know? I told her the truth. She knew. She's known for a long time. She told me Dad did what he had to do to take care of the family. She asked me to bury it. Emma closed her eyes. I don't know how to process that. I don't know how to look at her the same way. She's been defending him, telling everyone you're lying, telling me I should never speak to you again. And she knew. She knew the whole time. I think she convinced herself it was okay. That the money was worth it. That the people Dad hurt deserved it somehow. They didn't deserve it. David Chin didn't deserve to die in prison. Robert Harrison didn't deserve to lose 7 years of his life. James Lee's kids grew up without a father because of what Dad did. She turned to look at me, her eyes searching my face. Why did you do it? Why did you turn him in when you knew what it would cost you? Because it was the right thing to do. That's it? That's the only reason. That's the only reason that matters. She started crying again, harder this time. I'm so sorry, Marcus. I'm so sorry for what I said to you. I'm sorry I called you a liar. I'm sorry I took her side. I should have trusted you. I should have known you wouldn't make something like this up. I put my arm around her. You loved Dad. You wanted to believe the best of him. That's not something to apologize for. But I hurt you. I cut you out of my life when you needed me most. You're here now. That's what matters. We sat together on that couch for 2 hours. She told me about how she'd been struggling for weeks, how she couldn't sleep, how every time she looked at Dad's photo she felt sick. She told me about a fight she'd had with Mom when she said maybe I was telling the truth. Mom had screamed at her, told her she was being brainwashed, told her she had to choose between me and the family. I chose you, Emma said. I called you. So I guess I'm out of the family now too. I'm sorry. Don't be. You were right. The truth matters more than protecting a comfortable lie. I just wish I'd figured that out sooner. Before she left that night, she hugged me tight. I love you. I should have said that weeks ago. I love you and I'm proud of you for doing something I don't know if I would have been strong enough to do. After she left, I sat in my apartment feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Not happiness exactly, but something close to hope. I'd lost my mother. I'd lost the father I thought I had. I'd lost the family I grew up believing was unbreakable. But I had my sister back. And maybe that was enough. The press conference was scheduled for the following Monday. The DA's office wanted me there. They wanted me to stand next to Robert Harrison and James Lee when they announced the exonerations. They wanted me to be the face of doing the right thing, of choosing truth over loyalty. I spent the weekend trying to figure out if I could actually do it. If I could stand in front of cameras and explain why I destroyed my father's legacy. If I could look into those cameras knowing my mother might be watching. Knowing she would hate me even more. Sunday night my phone rang. A known number. I answered it. Marcus Carter? Yes. This is Catherine Chin. David Chin's widow. My heart stopped. I heard about what you did. About the evidence you gave to the district attorney. About how you're getting my husband's conviction overturned. Mrs. Chin, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for what my father did. I'm sorry it took so long for the truth to come out. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that broke me. Thank you. Thank you for giving me back my husband's name. Thank you for letting my daughter know her father wasn't a criminal. Thank you for choosing us over your own family. I couldn't speak. My throat was too tight. I know what you gave up to do this, she continued. I know what it cost you. And I want you to know that it matters. What you did matters. My daughter is going to college next year. She's going to graduate knowing her father was innocent. That's because of you. We talked for a few more minutes. She told me about her daughter, about the scholarship she'd received, about how they were starting to rebuild their lives. She told me she was going to be at the press conference. She wanted to meet me in person. She wanted to thank me face to face. After we hung up, I sat in the dark and cried. Not from sadness this time. From something else. From the knowledge that I'd done something that mattered. That I'd helped people who needed help. That I'd chosen right even when right was the hardest choice I'd ever made. Mom wants to see you. I didn't believe her at first. What? She called me this morning. She said she needs to talk to you. She asked if I could set something up. We met at a coffee shop halfway between my apartment and the house. Neutral territory. I got there early and sat in the corner booth, my coffee getting cold in front of me, wondering if she would actually show up. Then the door opened and there she was. My mother. 3 years older. 3 years harder. But still my mother. She sat down across from me without ordering anything. We looked at each other for a long time. Then she spoke. I've been going to therapy. Did Emma tell you that? I shook my head. 2 years now. Twice a week. My therapist says I need to face what your father did. She says I need to acknowledge my part in protecting him. I didn't say anything. Just waited. I knew Marcus. I knew for almost 10 years before he died. I found some of the money. I saw some of the photos. And I convinced myself it was fine because we needed it. Because your college wasn't going to pay for itself. Because Emma's braces and your soccer camps and the new roof and everything else required money we didn't have on a police officer's salary. Her hands were shaking. She folded them on the table. I told myself the people he hurt were probably guilty of something anyway. That he was just helping justice along. That it wasn't really that bad. And I hated you for exposing it because you made me face the truth I'd been running from for a decade. Mom, let me finish. Please. I nodded. You were right. You were right to do what you did. Those people deserved justice. David Chen's family deserved to know he was innocent. Robert Harrison and James Lee deserved their freedom. And I should have been the one to make sure they got it. But I wasn't brave enough. You were. She reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. She slid it across the table. This is a letter. I wrote it to the families your father hurt. All of them. I apologized. I explained what I knew and when I knew it. I told them I was sorry for my silence. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But they deserved an apology. I picked up the envelope. It was thick. Multiple pages. Did you send it? I sent copies to everyone. Robert Harrison's family. James Lee's family. Catherine Chin. All of them. Some responded. Most didn't. But I needed to do it. I needed to acknowledge my part in their pain. We sat in silence for a while. Then she looked at me with tears in her eyes. I can't undo the last 3 years, Marcus. I can't take back the things I said to you. I can't give you back the family you lost. But I want to try to be your mother again. If you'll let me. I wanted to be angry. Part of me wanted to tell her it was too late, that she'd made her choice and now she had to live with it. But the truth is I was tired. Tired of being angry. Tired of carrying around the weight of what my father did and what my mother allowed. Tired of living with the distance between us. I'd like that, I said. We meet for coffee once a month now. It's not easy. There are long silences. There are moments when I can see her struggling with the reality of what Dad was and what she enabled. But she's trying. She volunteers at a reentry program helping formerly incarcerated people find housing and jobs. She says it's the least she can do. I think it's more than that. I think it's her way of learning to live with the truth. Last week, Catherine Chen's daughter graduated from college. She sent me an invitation. I went. She was the first person in her family to earn a degree. When she walked across that stage, Catherine found me in the crowd. She didn't say anything, just squeezed my hand. Her daughter saw me afterward and hugged me. She said her dad would have been proud. I told her he would have been proud of her. That night, I sat in my apartment and thought about everything that had happened. 3 years ago, I found a box in my mother's garage. 3 years ago, I made a choice that cost me my family. And slowly, piece by piece, I've built something new from the wreckage. Not the same family. Not the same relationships. But something honest. Something real. Emma and I started a support group for families affected by police corruption. It's small. Just a few people meeting once a week in a church basement. But it's something. People who understand what it's like to discover that someone you loved was capable of terrible things. People who are trying to figure out how to move forward when the foundation you built your life on turns out to be rotten. Mom came to a meeting last month. She sat in the back and didn't say much. But she came. And that matters. I still think about Dad sometimes. About the man I thought he was versus the man he actually was. About the lessons he taught me that were true and the ones that were lies. About whether he ever felt guilty for what he did or if he convinced himself it was all justified. I'll never know. He took those answers with him. But I know this. The truth will set you free. It might cost you everything first. It might break your heart and destroy your family and leave you standing alone wondering if you made the right choice. But in the end, the truth is the only thing worth holding on to. Because lies, no matter how comfortable, always collapse eventually. And when they do, you want to be standing on solid ground. My name is Marcus Carter. My father was not a hero. My mother protected him when she should have stopped him. And I destroyed my family by choosing truth over loyalty. 3 years later, I do it again. Not because it was easy. Not because it felt good. But because it was right. And sometimes, being a good person means standing alone until other people are brave enough to stand with you. Robert Harrison got remarried last year. James Lee is working as a mechanic and coaching his son's little league team. Catherine Chen's daughter is going to law school. She wants to be a defense attorney. She wants to help people who can't help themselves. These are the people my father tried to destroy. These are the lives that are being rebuilt because I chose truth. And when I doubt myself, when I wonder if I did the right thing, I think about them. I think about the second chances they got because someone finally cared enough to speak up. That's my story. That's what happened when I found out what my father really did and chose to tell the truth anyway. It cost me everything. And it was worth it. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever had to choose between loyalty and truth, if you understand what it means to stand alone for what's right, I want to hear from you. Leave a comment. Tell me your story. Tell me where you're watching from and whether you think I made the right choice. And if you want to hear more stories like this, stories about the battles we fight within our families, the secrets that destroy us, and the courage it takes to face the truth, hit that subscribe button. Because everyone has a story. And sometimes the hardest stories are the ones that need to be told the most. Thank you for listening. I'll see you in the next one. This is my Reddit diaries, where every story reveals the unseen battles within families. Subscribe, and I'll keep sharing the truth, no matter how difficult it is to hear.